Hello, everyone. I am so glad you were able to make it to law number 3. Cleanse yourself. You're okay. You're here. You're safe. It's all right. Here we are back together again. Law number 4. Always say less than necessary. Let's get into it. When you are trying to impress people with words, the more you say, the more common you appear and the less in control. Even if you're saying something banal, it will seem original if you make it vague, open-ended, and sphinx-like. Powerful people impress and intimidating by saying less. The more you say, the more likely you are to say something foolish. Isn't that right? I know so many times that if I'd have just shut my mouth, I'm telling you, if I'd have just shut my mouth. Okay, here's some keys to power. Power in many ways is a game of appearances. When you say less than necessary, you inevitably appear greater and more powerful than you are. Your silence will make people uncomfortable. Humans are machines of interpretation and explanation. They have to know what you are thinking. When you carefully control what you reveal, they cannot pierce into your intentions or meanings. Now, one of the things that I find really powerful about this statement is you only really have control of your response, right? So many things are happening to us in life. We didn't ask for the recession. We didn't ask for the pandemic. We didn't ask for any of this stuff when we're coming into this matrix-like system that we live in. But yet here we are. But the only thing that we do have control over is our response. Are we going to say something to that person? Are we going to fight that person? Are we going to cuss that person out? Are we going to leave that person alone? That is the only power that we have. And I think it's really powerful that we take control of that, because sometimes not saying anything is a powerful mood, especially like when you're dealing with men. The only thing men seem to hear is silence. Like, shh. When you say nothing, they hear you. Like, oh my gosh, she's not talking to me. It must be important. I can hear her now. So silence, be quiet. Here's another key to power. In most areas of life, the less you say, the more profound and mysterious you appear. By saying less than necessary, you create the appearance of meaning and power. Also, the less you say, the less risk you run of saying something foolish or even dangerous. So it made me think of the first time that I met my husband. We stayed in the car and we talked for hours and hours and hours. And when I was talking to him about that later, he was like, yeah, when I first met you, I realized you're a talker. I was like, oh. I was like, I thought we were having a good back and forth conversation. He's like, I was listening, but you were doing most of the talking. He's like, I was engaged, but you were doing most of the talking. And I was like, here I am just thinking we was just da 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 da, and I was just blah 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 blah. But there you go. For me, I was like, that was a great conversation. I got to say everything that was on my mind, right? True female form. And he was just like, yeah, and I guess we both got what we wanted. So say less. Another thing that I was thinking too is, like, if you're in a room full of really, really, really smart people, you want to be quiet, right? You want to be a student. You want to pick up your pen, paper. You want to write down notes. You want to ask really good questions. You want to know who you are in that room. And maybe it's not the time to be that one person that I find in every single room. Sidebar rant. Hold on. Let me just say this real quick. I do not know why in every single room there is one person who is always talking. They are always asking questions. They are always saying more than necessary. They are just talking and talking and talking. I do not know why that person exists in every single room, but maybe we could give them law number 4 and they could learn to say less. And you know what? I'll work on my response, because I don't really need to get triggered like that, right? Because I don't even know these people, right? They're doing the best they can. Let's continue. Okay, so let's go to the reversal of the law. There are times when it is unwise to be silent. Silence can arouse suspicion and even insecurity, especially in your superiors. A vague or ambiguous comment can open you up to interpretations that you had not bargained for. I got a story time for you. It occasionally is wiser to imitate a court gesture and play the fool who knows he's smarter than the king and talks and entertains so no one suspects that he's more than just a fool. That's really, really powerful. I think that, you don't always have to let people know what you are, especially like if you're in a room where you're trying to get information from the people in the room. Sometimes it's best to just be quiet, be a fly on the wall. Don't say anything, be funny, be entertaining, look like you're not there for anything, and just absorb and just soak in what's happening in the room, because it's not always what's taught, it's what's caught. Get it? Okay. So, story time. Okay. I had this consulting gig that turned into a job. And as soon as it turned into a job, I was like, oh my gosh, I have a job. But shout out to everybody who has a job, right? It's a recession. Shout out to everybody who has a job. So anyways, Things were going on at the company. It seemed like you can tell when the energy is weird, like a layoff is about to happen. Like the energy is just weird. And my boss came up to me one time and he was like complaining about someone that we both had to work with, but for different reasons. I worked with that person because I was a consultant. He worked with that person because now he was the boss. So it was like two different things. And they had been having a lot of clashing and a lot of arguments, and I was just over it. And so, he's sitting there and the boss is like complaining. And I was like, I really need to watch. This is where I could have said less, right? I was like, I don't come here for this. I just come here to do my job. Like, I just want to do my job. I don't care about this. I just want to come in, do the things I'm supposed to do. And like what you guys got going on really doesn't have anything to do with me. They let me go about 30 days later. Why, you ask? Because, they were doing a layoff, right? So the energy was, I didn't think I was going to be one of the people laid off because usually I go above the line, but I fell below the line because he didn't see me as an ally. I didn't want to listen to what he had to say. I felt like blah, blah, I didn't want to hear that. I didn't need to say that. I could have just sat there and listened. I didn't have to say that. I thought I was trying to prove a point and be like, hey, you don't need to complain. I'm just here to do my job. And he was like, I'm complaining because I'm trying to see who's on my team. The games that are always being played. Well, I hope that you guys have learned something. I hope that you learn to say less. David's a great example of saying less. I'm a great example of saying too much. And so we're all going to work on ourselves. You guys pray for me, and we will be back tomorrow with law number 5. All right. See you guys. Bye.